Most athletes struggle from depression once they're done playing sports. Hmm. This is true. But why is that?
Coach 'em up, Nick. Coach 'em up, Nick. Coach 'em up, Nick. Get your mind right.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Nick Davenport, aka Mr. Mental Muscle, with another episode of Coach 'em Up, Nick. And this meme I saw going viral across numerous people on my friends list on Facebook and Instagram, talking more so about how athletes deal with mental health, specifically after they end their career. Now, in my first video, when I talked about him, I mentioned briefly this topic of athletic identity. Now, how would I coach up someone who's transitioning from sport to civilian life? I know it's not the military, but it's kind of the same premise. So first, let's touch on why are they depressed? Now, it could be as simple as, oh, they don't get to do what they love anymore, which is kind of true. Now, it doesn't mean you can just not play your sport ever again, but it's never going to be the same as it was before. And then we talk about depression. What exactly is depression, right? Some people see it as just being sad, but there's levels to depression where it goes beyond just being sad, because as humans, our emotions fluctuate and we all get sad, right? But depression goes into the realm of different symptoms that come with it, such as different social behaviors, less interest in things that you used to be interested in, less want to eat, or maybe wanting to eat more. So there's different criteria. So I won't get into the full DSM diagnosis of what depression is, but what is the correlation? This comes back to that word athletic identity. Simply put, how much does the athlete identify to his or her sport and the things that come with it, such as team, the effort of winning, taking losses personally, because you need a high level of it. But a lot of times the personality of the individual and the personality of who they are as a performer in their sport are intertwined to the point where you cannot separate one from the other. So getting to all this full circle, why are they depressed after sport ends? So it could be simple as, well, sport was the only thing they ever knew. So if they always knew, oh, I'm the fastest, I'm the strongest, I'm the biggest, or the only wins they ever were told that mattered were the wins they did on the field or the track or the court, rather than the classroom, or let's take it from even competition or things like that. What about themselves? A lot of times people aren't even asked, how are you doing, unless it's attached to what they do in their respective sport. I have a good friend who, for most of his life, was told, you're going to make it in this, you're going to be the fastest, the best. And granted, he went pretty far. He played high-level Division I sports. But once that came to the close, he really had trouble finding his path and purpose, not because he didn't know he was worth anything. It's just that his worth was always tied to what he did on that field. Imagine if you had a great game, the whole community, the whole town, the whole college, depending on what level you play, if it's pros, it's even crazier because now you have millions of dollars tied into that. But imagine that's the only time where your value actually mattered to somebody. That's hard to deal with, and vice versa. When you didn't do well, everyone had it against or out for you. So you internalize that, oh, I lost the game, so I suck as a person. So why is it hard for someone to transition? Someone once said an athlete dies twice. So I added to that quote, if an athlete dies twice, you got to be ready for that first funeral. And this is how you can get ready. One, you need to have things in your circle, whether it be people, activities you do, hobbies, that have little to nothing to do with anything sport related. It doesn't mean that you can't watch the game or play the video game. No, it means that the people that surround you shouldn't only be teammates. Now, granted, you're probably going to be around your teammates all the time because you do the same things. But it's healthy to have a group of friends or a friend singular that doesn't play a sport, or if they did play sports, they're not playing your sport. And if you are around each other, the topic can be about more different things that you would typically talk about. That's a first and foremost when transitioning. Two, another thing you could probably look at as someone going into, as I call, civilian life. And I use that analogy because in the military, a lot of times when they get out, they have trouble acclimating as well, because a lot of things in the military are set up a certain way, just like an athlete, where now they get in the real world, they have to operate how us regular people go. We don't have the same accommodations. If you're a student athlete, you get scholarship, you get your meals covered. Same thing in the military, you get housing, meals covered. If you're a pro, you're making a lot of money. You get praise, you get fame, you get attention. So to just snatch that away. If we get into the neuroscience of it, our brain is acclimating or adapting all the time, either to the stimuli that it's presented with or the lack thereof. So imagine, I'm gonna use maybe out there analogy, but maybe not. Imagine you have a drug. I'm just going to use this because it makes sense with the picture. You're giving this drug, whatever it is, over and over and over. That's called what? Getting addicted, getting chemically dependent. If you just snatch away, what happens? It can even happen with coffee. Let's use that to make it a little more YouTube safe. You go into withdrawal. So if you go into withdrawal, your body means it needs it to keep going. Now, in this case, you don't physically need it. With some drugs, your body does physically need it. But for the sake of this concept, you're not getting the attention you used to get. You're not getting the praises. You're not getting the money. Your body, your mind, your life is going to be socially, mentally, and physically different. And we're taking all that away because when it goes to depression, it's usually because there's a gap in focus on what used to be. There's a term called rumination where over and over and over and over, your brain is longing for what was already happened. And it's usually because that made you feel good and now you can't anymore, or made you feel bad, but it's so ingrained that you can't let it go. Going back to neuroscience, your brain is very good at storing long-term information for the sake of protection later down the road. That's why people talk about trauma or PTSD. This is where this comes in because our brain is reminding us this is what happened or this is what didn't happen to make us feel okay, be worried about that. But when it comes to that discrepancy, that gap from being an athlete and not being an athlete, it just grows wider and wider because more than likely between ages 20 to, let's say you got to play past college. So 20 to maybe 30, 35 even, unless you're like Tom Brady went to his 40s, the majority of your life will not be playing that sport. So that means that gap, that wanting to play versus not being able to play only gets wider. So imagine you're trying to gasp for the air, but there's just none there. And that's what it is with the athletic career. So you got to be able to find value, find purpose that goes beyond your physical capabilities, your status, your legendariness if you were a superstar, because you don't throw that away. Be happy. Like I said, athletic identity is not a bad thing. Someone with high athletic identity is going to go harder for their sport. They're going to be more competitive. They're probably going to work to the ends of the earth to make it happen, which you need all of that. But when that first funeral comes, after he dies the first time, you got to be ready to say, this is no longer here. So that being said, this meme, like I say, keeps getting shared, but I think it's very important to talk about this because when an athlete truly can't do what they do anymore, it's almost as if they did lose something or someone. So it's not that far-fetched. So think about that and remember, guys, get your mind right.